Hey, welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me once again at Manny School of Art. Today we have a very special video for you. This was a request from Karen from New Zealand, and she reached out and asked for some help with drawing portraits for one of her classes. Specifically, she asked for help with the planes of the face and putting the face in perspective. So in this video, we are going to be looking at both of those things. We will be looking at how to use planes to suggest the illusion of form on a face, and we will also be looking at how to draw the face in perspective using the Loomis method. Now, I will admit when I was making this video that I made my share of mistakes. When I draw portraits, I don't really think about the Loomis method anymore, so when I was preparing this lesson, I was actually struggling with explaining it properly. So hopefully I got it all cleaned up. Now I know drawing faces can be pretty challenging at first. There's a big learning curve and there's a lot of practice required to really capture those little those little nuances that make us who we are. So be patient when you're learning this process. Make sure that you take the time to practice and try not to be discouraged because it does take a little while. But in the end, it's all worth it. So let's go ahead and get started with the video. All right, so the two areas that we're going to try to cover today for the human face are perspective and planes, drawing planes specifically. So what is a drawing plane? Drawing planes are using flat two-dimensional surfaces to represent the structure of a three-dimensional object. Well, what does that mean? Well, right here, I have an example of this little face that was printed on a three-dimensional printer, and it was done through the use of flat planes. So you can see all of these surfaces are very flat, but when you look at them together, they represent a three-dimensional object, in this case, the face of a monkey. So what does that look like on paper? Well, when you're drawing in 3 dimensions, think of your planes as just the basic surfaces. So let's say, for example, that I'm drawing a box like this. It could be anything. And we say that they're flat, and that's kind of an important distinction. So if I'm drawing this box and it's like this, it's flat, then this is the top plane. This would be the right plane, and this would be the front plane. And they're all flat, so it's pretty easy to figure it out, and we don't really have to do much more. But what happens if you have an object that's not flat? Let's say that we have a cylinder. But we want to demonstrate this as a plane. Well, what you want to do in this case is you want to use your cross contours to help you figure that out. And remember, the cross contours are these imaginary lines that go around an object. So I'm just going to do a little bit of this here. So imagine that they would go all the way around like so, if it was see-through. These, on the other hand, would stay straight. And as they go back into the distance, because it's in perspective, they do appear to get a little bit smaller, right? Because that's one of our basic rules. So then what you have to do to show this as planes, essentially what you have to do is you have to turn these into angles instead of curves. Okay, so hopefully you get the picture. So that is how something like this is created, right? All of these little pieces have slight angles, but they're all flat. And combined, they give the illusion of a three-dimensional object. Now these planes can also be used on complex forms like this here. The important thing is to follow your angle. So I rely more on my cross contour lines than I do on planes when I'm drawing complex forms. Okay? So for example, if this line is coming this way, when it gets here, it's going to go underneath like so. But then when it gets here, it's going to come right back out this way. And then it's going to drop down. This way, drop it down. Now you don't need that many. I'm just showing you this for the purpose of the video. And what this is going to do, it's going to help you figure out how to work with the shadows, whether they're in color or whether they're done in black and white. It'll help you figure things out. So for example, if I put my light source over here, then I know that the light is going to strike here and this face here will be brighter. But the light is not going to get back here, right? Because the light travels in a straight line, which means that this area here will be darker. Same thing here. The light is not going to do something like this unless there was like some sort of mirror or something here. So the light is going to miss this area here. So it's going to make this area up here darker. In fact, it's probably going to be darker than this over here. And then it's going to stay dark, but as it comes this way, chances are that there's some light going to get in here, right? So I'm guessing that, yeah, some light will probably hit this area here. So this will start off dark, but then as it comes forward, it's going to get lighter. This and this will be similar. And then this is going to be a little bit darker than that because the light, again, it's not going to do this right here. So when you are thinking about planes, the purpose of using a plane is to kind of help you figure out how the colors and how the shadows are going to react to whatever the light source is. And like where the two meet, it's probably going to be the darkest area. There we go. All right, the next thing that we want to look at is how to draw the skull or the face in 3D. So learning how to draw the face from a front view and from a side view are pretty straightforward. The issues become when we have to start trying to draw the face at different angles, right? Because we have to introduce perspective. So it's very important that you practice creating these basic forms here in different angles, okay? So when we look at the front piece here, we can see that this part of the face is a little bit narrower than the back side. So this back here is a little thicker, right? And then when you look at the sides, you can see where the cheekbones are going to be. You're going to see the socket for the eyes, the socket for the nose, and the jaw, how it connects right here near where the ear is going to be, and how it pivots. Okay. Now in 1956, Andrew Loomis came out with a drawing book called Drawing the Head and Hands, and is referred to now as the Loomis Method, and it has been around for a long, long time, still being used by artists today. So there's a lot of different variations online. So I'm going to show you my variation on how his method will actually help you draw front view, side view, as well as different angles. All right, so let's go ahead and go over how the Loomis method works. And again, the front view and the side view are easy, so we'll start with those, and then we'll look at a 3/4 view. So for the Loomis method, you start off with a big circle, and then you want an inner circle that's roughly about 2/3 the size of the outer one. Then you want your crosshairs to go straight across the center and straight down for the front view. This is going to be the brow ridge. This will be the hairline. This will be the base of the nose. And then to find the base of the jaw, take this from here and double it. You can measure it if you want to. So that's roughly the bottom of the jaw, or the chin. Now, we know that the side of our heads are not circular like this. They're flat. So right about here, we're going to cut this off. So I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this. So you're kind of left almost with a square like this. So let's get rid of this. All right, now let's figure out where things go. We're not going to draw the details, but I want to show you where everything goes. So this is the brow ridge, not the eyes. The eyes are below that. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a space right here, and the eyes are going to fit inside of here. Now, right here is the beginning of the nose. Right here should be the base of the nose. So I'm going to come in here and establish where I want that nose to be. As far as the wings of the nose, they should be roughly the width of the eyes, depending on the person. You might see a little bit of the nostrils. More or less, where the base of the second circle, the bigger circle is, that should be more or less where the center of the mouth is going to be. So I'm going to put in this little piece here so that I can establish where the center of the lips are going to be. And then the bottom of the lip. And then you leave a space here. Again, it varies from person to person. And that's going to be the top of the chin here. And this is the bottom of the chin. This space right here, this area here, is the location of the ears. Because as a front view, we're not going to see a lot of the ears. So that's the location of the ears. And then from the ears, this way, right here, is where the jaw is going to start to form. And it connects to the chin. And the neck somewhere. Now here, we can go a little bit wider, right? Because we have the cheekbone. That would do something like this, right? It's going to go below the eyes, come this way, and then point towards the mouth. And then the cranium, which is wider at the top, it's going to go out at an angle, like so. So that is pretty much a Loomis head without the details, right? All right, now let's look at this from the side view. So you started exactly the same way. First, figure out how big you want your circle to be. And then your inner circle should be approximately 2/3 of the size. If you make it too small, your facial proportions will look tiny in relationship to the skull. If you make it too big, they'll make it look way too big, which will make the skull look really skinny with really oversized proportions. So the first three steps are the same. Outer circle, inner circle, crossing. Now let's make the face facing this way, okay? So because we're looking at the face, we're not going to cut off the side, okay? So this right here becomes the brow ridge. Oops, before we do that, let's establish where the jaw is going to be. So here is 1, 2. And then the jaw would be here. I think I need to go a little bit wider here. Now the brow ridge goes in like this. Well, the brow ridge is here. So this goes in. The eyes are actually located back here, right? Because they're protected. And they're at an angle also. The nose will come from here and go out this way. With the nostril here. The mouth will be about here. The mouth comes out, so we want to go this way. Then it comes in, right, because the lower lip faces inward. Then it comes out again, then in again, and then the chin. Because we're looking at the side view, we're not going to, the lips aren't going to look as wide, okay? And that's it. Because we're looking at the side view, we have to turn the circle that makes up the eyeball into an oval. Here's the hairline. Oh, excuse me, not the hairline, the brow ridge. And if we were to put in the cheek, it would do something like this. And then the ear, it's not straight up and down. You got to angle it. I don't remember what the exact angle is, or if there's an exact angle, but I believe it was somewhere around 13 degrees. And the cranium will do something like this, depending on the person. And then the hairline would be there. So that's the side view. Okay. Now the power of the Loomis head is really when you're trying to make the face in perspective. So the first step is still the same, okay? But because we are looking at a 3/4 view, we know that one of the sides is going to be flat depending on which side we look at. So what we have to do is we have to decide which direction we want the face to be. So let's say that we want to look in this direction, this way. That means that instead of putting a circle, I have to put in an oval, because a circle in perspective is an oval. So this is the part, imagine, that we would cut off. Okay? Then if he's looking like fairly straight, in other words, the head is not tilted up or down, then this line is relatively vertical. And this line will form a 90 degree. And then you bring that across. all three of them. They should be relatively spaced the same for this particular view. As we change the views, that's going to change. Now we also have to cut off a little bit on this side, right? Because the more you turn the face, the less you'll see on this side. So right about here where the hairline meets the edge of the circle, that's more or less where the cutoff here would be. So imagine this going away. Next thing we need to do is find the center. Now the center in perspective is not back in the middle. So I can eyeball it, right? So this side would be smaller than this side. Or if I really wanted to get picky, I could crisscross to find the center. And I'm thinking that it's a little off, so I'm going to move it here. Then I'm going to do the same thing that I did when I did the other two. I'm going to take this measurement here, and I'm going to extend it down to here. Okay. Let me get some of this stuff out the way. Now, because the face is turned, you're actually going to see more of how the eyes go into the head. So we're going to angle this plane going this way. Leave that space there for the nose area here. Now, because it's in perspective, the eye that's closer to you, so this one here, would actually look bigger than the eye that's far away. So I need to move this line over a little bit. For the base of the nose is here. Now we need to figure out where the tip of the nose is. I'm going to take this angle here, and I'm going to move it here. Try to repeat it somewhat. Now, this is assuming that the person has a relatively short nose. This becomes the tip of the nose up here, not down here, okay? Then I'm going to take this cylinder, and I'm going to connect it to the top of the nose, like so. And then it drops down, right? So I'm following angles. The nostril would be roughly here. And on the other side, you're not really going to see much of it, if any at all. Because the face is pointing this way, everything has to point this way. Okay. The ear still in the same quadrant. Remember to angle it. And we're not going to get into the details. We're just finding the location of everything. And then the chin is going to be here. So we're going to extend it from the base of the ear and then connect it. And this could be further down and up, or it could be more curved. Again, it depends on the person. All right, so now let's go ahead and figure out where this muzzle is. So from the nostril, create a circle lightly. And then from the base, you want to like give that a little bit of a curve this way. And he's looking up, so we got to curve it down a little bit this way. That's going to tell us where this little centerpiece is going to go. So the lips are going to do this because they're in perspective. And because they're in perspective, this side, this lip on this side, or this pillow, it's going to look a little bit bigger than this one because it's overlapping. So it'll look like that. And then here's the base of the chin. Now here is the cheekbone on this side. And we know that the jaw comes from behind that. And we can see it on this side as well. And that is a Loomis head in 3/4 view. Now this does take practice. Okay? You're not going to get it the first couple of times you do this. Practice doing different faces in different directions. So let's do one pointing this way and down. Start off the same way. And we said we wanted to point down, so I'm going to angle the oval this way. And then I want to create my vertical line following the same angle as the oval. And then I'm going to form my 90 degree. So there was my 3 marks again. Okay, now I'm going to bring across. And I'm going to chop off this side as well. Because of this angle here, I need to chop off this side roughly the same angle. And then I'm going to find my centerpiece, my perspective center, so it's going to be not perfectly centered. This side is closer to us now, so this side will be bigger than this side. And I'm going to try to match this angle here. So the jaw on this side will do something like this. And then we have the eye sockets, the cheekbone, and let's establish the eyes on this side and the cheekbone. And because this is now pointing this way, downward, when we do the base of the nose, we need to go in that direction. Which means that the nostril on this guy will do something like that. You're not going to see the inner part because it's facing down. You're actually not going to see the inner portion of the nostril. You'll see this, more or less. The brow ridge, which I forgot to put on that one. And the mouth. And the ear. Let's do one that's pointing way up. So start off, this will be the last one. And this time I'm going to go this way. And he's looking up, so I'm going to put this angle up before coming across. Remember, when you come up and you come across, try to make it look like it forms a 90 degree. It's in perspective, so it's not going to be a perfect 90 degree, but it should feel like it's a 90 degree when you look at it. Now, you'll notice on this one, because we're looking up, or the character is looking up, that a lot of the head has gone into the distance, so we don't see it as much. So let's cut off this side, and then let's establish the center and the jaw. That's pretty good. Okay. The ear is still here, always in that back lower quadrant, right there. Here, because we're looking up at this character, you're going to see kind of like the cheeks are going to block a little bit of the eyes this way. And because we're looking up, the nose is also going to be pointing up. So the tip of the nose will actually be here somewhere. Oops, got this part wrong. So even though I've been doing this for a while, I still make plenty of mistakes. So if you make mistakes, that's just part of it. So the nose on this guy would probably come this way. So the nostril will do something like this. And the eyes will be here. Cheekbone here. Jawline here. And the mouth, if we put the center of the mouth here, then this is going to curl. Bottom of the mouth. I think we need to move that up a little bit. Okay, so these are some of the things that you want to do when you are practicing drawing the Loomis head. Practice following the steps and make sure that you are trying different angles. And really practice your perspective, because it's so critical when you start moving the direction of the face. Well, a lot of times students find it easier to actually just start off with a box. So let's say that I want to start off with a square. And this is important. You got to try to make it look like a square that's in perspective. And you want to try to make these look like they form a 90 degree. Okay. Now, to find the center is actually very easy. So you just go crisscross. And there's your center. So now I'm going to measure here, or not measure, but bring this line, which matches this, and then I'm going to double that to about here. So now we have the same lines that we did with the Loomis. So we have the brow ridge, we have the base of the nose, we have the chin, and we have the hairline. And the process kind of starts all over again. So here, this is going to go back at this angle. And then this matches this angle. This is where the ear is going to be located back here. This is where the jaw is going to be located here. You still have to establish where the eyes are going to go. Remember, that's in perspective, so this one looks slightly bigger than that. And then here is the cheekbone that goes into the head. This becomes the brow. And then this is the forehead. And then you just got to round off this back area here. And subdivide that. The nose, since it's pointing down, it's going to come this way. Decide how far you want that to be. And then where the nostril is going to go. And then, of course, the mouth is here. And the process is exactly the same as it would be for the Loomis head. The difference is that you'll start off with a boxy shape rather than the circles. And that's a matter of choice. All right, I think we pretty much got everything that we needed to cover in the video covered. So the last step is to show you how to take this Loomis drawing that I did, a little bit more refined drawing that I did, and show you how to convert it into a planes drawing, or you can call it cross contour drawing, either way. So I'm not going to do the whole thing because this will take a while, but I will show you how to get it started. So let's look at the tip of the nose. Let's start there. So we know that this part here is the ridge of the nose, and we know that this part here will be the front of the nose. Okay. So if I'm doing planes, then this part of the nose will be going this way, and I'm going to kind of keep them widely spread here. But then when I get to the side of the nose, it's going to drop. And on this particular image, his nose is relatively smooth. It doesn't have like too many bumps and bruises. So it's going to come out like this, kind of like a box. Now, when we get here to where the nostril is, then it changes a little bit, right? Because this is a separate box. So this is going to go here, and then it's going to go around and down. Okay, it's hard to see, and then down. When we get to the front portion of the box, or the nose, the front portion here, it does this. It goes this way, and then it drops this way with a curve. This way, curve. And then when it gets to the inner portion of the nostrils, there's actually, it would do something like this, and then it'll curl under. So you would actually see a little bit of a thickness of the wall, like this. Right? Same thing on the other side. Okay. Now, for the brow ridge, this part of the brow ridge is still moving in this direction, here. And then where it gets here, then it goes inward, like this. Inward. When it gets to the eyelid, though, the eye comes out again. So it's going to come back out. So it's going to go this way, in, out again. And then it's hard to see in this drawing, but we can't see the inner lid. So the eyeball itself would also have some curves to it. Now, the lower eyelid, we can see a little bit more clearly. So the lower eyelid is kind of flat, so it's going to come out this way. And then the cheek, the beginning of the cheek, is at an angle, roughly, till it gets here, to where the cheekbone is. And then it starts to drop, right? It changes direction. And then for the laugh line, which is right here, imagine this dropping down. And then the muzzle, it's not straight across, right? It's like a ramp. So these are going this way. And then they dip this way. So there's like a little bump here, and then they dip. And they come out on the other side, right? So it goes up, down, down. So it'll come out on this side. Okay. And remember, your cross contours can go either direction. It doesn't matter, whichever one is more helpful. Or you can do both. Yeah. So the upper lip comes out. So it's going to go this way. It's going to curl in this direction. And personally, I like to use cross contours when I have rounded objects. And I'll use planes when I have more angular objects. So these are coming out. However, these are going in, right? So this is going this way, and these are going this way, which makes here, where the two meet, the darkest part. I'm going to keep them all going this way, I think, because his face is turned that way. So I'll probably erase those and change those. Okay. Then there's a depression here. So these are going in the opposite direction. And then the chin stands out again. So these will be going in this direction. Okay. And so forth and so on. So like if you're looking at this cheek here, that's what we're looking at. Now, if the person has a wrinkle, right, then you got to pretty much treat that like you would a fold in fabric, right? So it would be something like this, right? So this part would go this way, then it drops down, and then it comes out here. And that would be, that one's kind of a heavy wrinkle, so I might remove that one, right? Because this is when my son was still pretty young, so he didn't have any heavy wrinkles. Now, the brow, right here, there is a little bit of thickness to the brow, right? So you can make this more angular, like this, which means that this would go this way, then down, this way, down, this way, down. And then, of course, the forehead is at an angle. It's not perfectly straight up and down. So the forehead would be going this way. Now here, depending on the person, and on him it's pretty flat, so this kind of drops down a little bit here, but it doesn't have like a pronounced brow. So we don't need to show that on him. And same thing here. There's a little bit of a bag, but not much, not enough to make it stand out, okay? So I would continue this for all parts of the face. Now you can also go this way, like I said. So let's say that you want to go this way here, and then we know that the cheek is going to be, not only is it coming this way, right, at an angle, but it's also going this way. And then right here, that's where it changes direction. So this line that you see here is actually telling you where to change direction, right? Where the face goes back into the distance. And the lines don't have to match up. It's helpful if they do, but it's not necessary. Okay, you just got to know that this is going this way, then here goes this way. And you also got to know that this is going this way, and then when it comes this way, it drops. And you just do that until the whole thing is mapped. Then the key is, after you are done, you got to kind of follow the map. So wherever you decide that the light source is coming from, use the map to kind of help you figure out which planes are facing the light source and which planes are going away from the light source. And if you could do that, then you'll actually add more realism to your paintings and your drawings. All right, I hope this really helps. Please let me know how things turn out, and let me know if you need any additional assistance. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next episode.